let's face it, over time, your Harley's just going to get sloppy. And what I mean by that is the shift mechanism over time, as you beat it, whether you're using heel shifters or just your toe shifter, that shift mechanism just gets looser and looser. And it sounds something like this. So if your Harley does sound like that, like mine does, it's time for some maintenance. Now typically, what's needed to be replaced, maintenance, is your shifter shaft. And it's because over time you have these splines here that your shifter goes over one side and the inner shift linkage on the other side. It's just metal on metal, and as you're stomping on it, things just wear, they get stirred inside, and it's all grimy. So this is typically the first step. And what I have here is a new shifter shaft, but it's got a zerk fitting at the end. So this is a greaseable shifter shaft. I guess the idea is you insert your grease gun, pump it up with grease. There are some pores, if you will, on each side. There's 4 holes in total, and that's so the grease can escape out the sides and keep the shaft lubricated. So pretty cool. This is made by V-Twin Manufacturing. So this is the first step, right? The second step is your shifter shaft bushing. And the one I have here is made by a company called Head Hoggers. If you're not familiar with them, they do some pretty cool stuff, make some pretty badass bikes. But this shifter shaft bushing, they advertise it as made with vibranium.
But it's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium.
Which I didn't even really know was a real thing. But so this is the second step. And along with that, what you can also purchase from Head Hoggers is the bushing puller. And this will help you extract the OEM bushing, and I believe help you a little bit installing the new one. Reasonably priced, and they advertise it as, you know, really tightening up your shift mechanism. So we'll see. With that being said, I've decided to take it a step further since I got it all apart, and I went with the Thrashin Supply inner shift arm, the EZ inner shift arm. They advertise this as making it easier to find neutral and less pressure to shift between gears, smoother shifting. So I figured, why not? It's a beautiful piece of billet aluminum. And to match with that, I bought their standard size outside shift arm. So we're doing the whole makeover here today. And to top it off, I've got a shift toe peg from Santoro Fabworx. It's got the blue chachos to match the other Santoro Fabworx products I have on the motorcycle. So this is not a big job. This is not a big deal, but it's definitely something you guys should do over time if your bike is making that sound. So let's get over to the bike. I'll show you how easy it is, and we'll knock this right out. Alright, so hopefully this is a good angle for you guys to see everything. It's really only some basic hand tools that you need. I've got a 1/4 inch hex here for my inner shift arm and the shift linkage. Again, I'm running the Santoro Fabworx shift shaft, so if you're running OEM, it's going to be a little different for you. I also have 3/16 here to remove my heel and toe shifter, and that should be about it to take it apart. Alright, so the next step is to remove the OEM bushing, and I'm going to be using Head Hoggers puller tool here. And basically this is how it works. This little nut on the back has a sleeve, and you're just going to insert it into the back here. Make sure it sits flush. It'll actually go in there a little bit, and then you're going to take the front part of it and you're going to tighten it so that it snugs up. which it is there. And what you need is a pair of 3/4 inch wrenches, or 1 ratchet, 1 wrench, and the idea is this. Probably better this side, right? You're just going to tighten it, and you're going to use the other one, whether it's a wrench or a ratchet, to keep the head from moving. And eventually what happens is you pull out the old bushing. And again, that gets worn up over time. It's a softer metal than the shaft itself, I believe. So for me, I'm replacing this as well. It's a cheap part, not that hard. Even this puller tool was reasonable, very reasonable. I think it was less than 40 bucks here if you don't want to buy a Jim's tool or some of the other tools that are out there. I thought it was a good deal, and again, not a hard job. So we got the old one out. We're going to take a piece of sandpaper. See all that dust and dirt that gets collected over time? So we want to clean that out. So we're going to clean that out, and then we're going to press in the new bushing. This is 120 grit if you're interested. I think it really matters too much. You're just trying to get some of the dirt and gunk that may be stuck to the walls, just to keep things as smooth as possible. That's it. You can follow up with a rag if you want. Make sure it's clean. And now we're ready to press the new bushing in. Alright, so we're ready to install the vibranium bushing. It's really this easy. You just line it up, slide it in, make sure it's flush against here. If it's not, gently tap it in. And now we're ready to install the new shift shaft. So I wanted to take a quick moment to show you the difference between the old worn out shaft and the new shaft. You know, obviously a lot of this is dirt, but I don't even know if that shows up on camera. But there are certain spots along these splines where you can see it's worn out, and that attributes to the whole thing. So if yours is actually in good condition, you can take some sandpaper, brake cleaner, whatever, clean this up, and as long as your splines are looking good, like yeah, right there, you can, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a pretty worn out point right there. If you think it's good, you can certainly reuse it. For me, this is like, what, a $30 part. Might as well swap it out. So for this greaseable shifting shaft, things are a little different. First of all, this Zerk fitting has to come off. It won't fit in the shaft, you know, in the sleeve, and you can't put it on, back on, when it's back to the other side, because it'll be rubbing up against the case here. So I did reach out to V-Twin Manufacturing, because that's who makes this one, and just to confirm that you have to take this off after you grease it and install, and you know, they replied right away. They said, yep, that's what you got to do. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to take my grease gun. I'm going to attach it to the Zerk fitting. I'm going to grease it until I see grease coming out the pores. I'm going to take this off and slide it through and begin the install itself. So this is a little bit different. You certainly don't have to buy a greasable one. You can buy a standard one and just put some sort of grease, you know, in the sleeve and on here, just so there's some form of lubrication. Alright, so you can see I do have the shaft slid into the inner shift arm. It is a tight fit. Look at that. Alright, I haven't tightened anything down. This is just in here. One thing I am noticing with these Thrashin levers is that the tolerance is tight. There is probably just a lot less flex here compared to, you know, these OEM ones. So something to take note, it is not as easy to slide these things on, so just be patient and take your time. So I've got this on preliminary. This is not tight. Again, I don't have that screw in there. I just want to put it all together and make sure everything's set right, and then I'll go ahead and use some blue Loctite and tighten everything down. We're going to put this in here, so I'm going to guesstimate where I want it in relationship to my foot. So that may be too high there. I think there looks good. And you'll see here as I try to push it in, it is tight. But if you take your time, a little patience, you will get it. You really do want it, the hole to be, the hole of the shaft here, to be in this groove right here, so because that's where the screw goes down. So that's what you're aiming for. Inside here as well, so after you slide this in, you can look up in this hole before you put your screw in and just make sure that the channel is what you see through that hole here. So just a note here, and I'm just going to take my time, tap this guy on, there we go, and again I'm just going to look for that part there. This looks good. I don't think there's any play, honestly. So I would say that feels good to me there. So now it's just a matter of taking your new bolts here, put a little Loctite, and tighten them down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and tighten this up as well, and take it from there. Alright, so here you have the finished product. As you can see, zero slop whatsoever. This thing is on tight. So the only thing I wish I did get was the heel shifter cap eliminator. Other than that, everything's nice. Happy with the quality of the product. I just need to take it out on a ride, and I'll let you guys know what I think about the shifting mechanism and all the components. So we're just going to stop this here. You guys know what to do. If you like these kind of videos, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next one.